hope is that you'll find this data informative and helpful, and maybe pique your interest or begin a thought process, or remind you of things you may want to think about again, do differently, or double down on. So I really appreciate the relationship with the National Golf Course Owners Association and all of the affiliate owners groups that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last several years. And I welcome any Q&A and look forward to a nice interaction and dialogue today. I'm going to make my disclaimer. I'm home alone. We have a guard dog, little Jack Russell Terrier. We've got people around the house doing yard work, so every once in a while she may freak out, but so be it. Talking about 3 tips to win the online marketing game. And I want to kind of just walk through some slides here relatively quickly. I always talk about this in terms of controlling your destiny. You have to know your numbers. What do I mean by knowing your numbers? It's really your electronic tee sheet, right? Your tee sheet is the key. You have to have good data in your tee sheet. And the other thing about knowing your numbers, if you want to do this by hand, there's a lot of this stuff you can do by hand. You need to insist that your tee sheet vendor can get you a data file. That's not an Excel workbook. That's not a PDF file. We're talking about a data file. Any data junkie will know what a data file means, but getting a data file out of your tee sheet relative to your tee time details is a key to doing some of this stuff alone. Number 2, good data. You have to have good data. What does good data in the tee sheet mean? If you've heard me before, you've heard me talk about this. It is when a body's on the golf course, it needs to be checked in on the tee sheet. And in a perfect world, rounds are checked in on the tee sheet that have the appropriate fee amount and the appropriate fee name associated with the tee time. Those 2 elements are critical in terms of knowing your numbers. When I talk about owning your price, that's about really raising the rate where you have the power to raise the rate, and lowering the rate only where you need to lower the rate, and having the wisdom to know the difference between the 2. So we'll talk a little bit about that. That's about knowing your historical performance day by day, hour by hour. And like I said, raising rates when you have power, lowering rates only, and I mean this with an exclamation point, only lowering rates when you're behind pace, and knowing when that is. When I talk about the 3rd step to controlling your destiny, develop your online tools. What's an online tool? An online tool is your email database. An online tool is your website and your booking engine. An online tool is your mobile app. And a new emerging online tool is an SMS or a text marketing program. I'll talk a little bit about those things today. And the other thing about growing your database, we all are customers. We all used to travel by air, stay in hotels. No matter how we booked, whether it be through an aggregate site or direct through the brand's website, when we arrived at our opportunity to check in, when we arrived at our registration spot, the front counter, the ticket counter, the car rental counter, maybe not so much the ticket counter, but those frontline staff were always doing their best to make sure that they had you share your customer information with them. If you are not using promo codes or other specials to entice third-party customers to book directly on you, you're missing the boat. So those are really the 3 things we're going to talk about today: knowing your numbers, own your pricing, and develop your tools. I'm going to move on to the slide. You know, Don Ray, my friend Don Ray, who talks about knowing your numbers, he talks about your budget is par, but your benchmark is how you compare to the other courses in your market or in your competitive set. You know, about week 10 is when the COVID outbreak started to really became a reality in our market. And of course, budgets go out the window at that point, and you are now in you know, scoring mode, if you will. And so having a way to see how you're performing amongst your market and amongst your competitive set, now that, you know, the analogy in a golf tournament is, right, the winds come up, the greens have dried out, and, you know, the morning round scoring average was 72, the afternoon scoring round average is going to be 77. So to be able to use a system where you can compare your occupancies, your average rates, and the resulting RevPAR is just, it's like now more important than ever when we talk about knowing your numbers. You cannot really understand how well you're performing unless you're evaluating your performance in the context of the broader marketplace. Okay, so to be able to look at your course in a competitive set and a marketplace data is really key to see if you're reacting better or worse than the way the market is reacting. And you can see here, you know, we talk about the occupancy percentage for a course, the average rate per round per course, and the resulting RevPAR. And these things, this doesn't change in good times and in bad. This is as important as ever to track this data. I would encourage marketplaces. I would encourage leaders in your market. I would encourage you to be talking to your national golf course owners, affiliate staff, and affiliate leadership, and discussing ways to bring this kind of reporting to your market. It's the way of the future. So that's one way. The other piece about knowing your numbers, gosh, third party. You know, knowing where your rounds are coming from. If you get that data file out of your T sheet and you know how to use Excel and you know how to build a simple pivot table, you can absolutely build a table just like this. It's very simple. And by knowing where your business is coming from, what's coming from your website, what's coming through the golf shop, what's coming through walk-up, what's coming through a call center, knowing this information also by your customer group. And when I talk about customer groups, I talk about rate categories. So if you know, it's one thing to know in this case, right, that this golf course has 7% of their business booked last month through the call center. Well, guess what? What if 90% of that business booked through the call center was your card holder and your member category? Is that a good use of your call center technology? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Same thing can be said for third-party mobile and third-party booking engines, right? Third-party website. There's 29%, almost 30% of this golf course's business in the month of April came through third party. When you tack on Barter at another 4%, you know, you're at 30, 34, 35%. So that's a big, big number, right? And you really want to know a couple things. Where does that round hit on your T sheet? Where do those paid rounds hit on your T sheet? And where what is the barter opportunity cost associated with that? I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do yourself when you calculate this information. This is about understanding your data. If you do not know, it's just like playing golf, right? You want to get better. If you're a teacher, if you're an instructor, if you're a competitive golfer, if you want to get better, you first have to know how many greens you're hitting, how many sand saves you're making, how many saves around the green you're making, what your putting average is, et cetera, right? Unless you start tracking your data, you have no way to know what you need to work on to get better. This is your scorecard. This is a snapshot. as is this simple heat map. Again, if you or somebody in your organization is decent with Excel, you can whip these things out in a matter of minutes. And to be able to look at this and say, oh, guess what? 29% of my business last month came from a third party, and 53% of that business was booked on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's important to know. Okay, that when I talk about gaining control of your pricing, okay, I talk about making sure there's no reason you shouldn't work with a third party, but if you're working with the third party, you absolutely need to be able to take control of that relationship, and you need to know where they're impacting your T sheet, and you need to make sure that you're pricing your T times accordingly. Okay, and here's a perfect example to understand where my paid rounds land on the T sheet, which is the table over here on the right. I think you can see my mouse circling that, and then the barter rounds. This is where the barter rounds hit on the T sheet for that particular month. This stuff you can do at home. If you have if you have data from long enough, if you've been accumulating this data out of your T sheet, well, then you can start to look at these numbers and how they're trending over time. This particular golf course we're looking at here, really has really, these are the first 20 weeks of the year, just ended on Sunday, the 17th of May. And so you can see over the course of these 20 weeks for the last 4 years, how the bookings in the golf shop have decreased by 30%. So one of the things you do is you start to take out, say, the group business. Like, you don't want to really talk about online versus online performance of group business. Group businesses for most courses gets booked over the phone. That's always going to be online. So take it out of the equation when you're evaluating your performance, right? And if you look at the group business, and you take out the group business, you can see that that golf shop has decreased by 30% in the last 4 years. The golf course's website has actually doubled. They're booking twice as many rounds on their website today as they were a year ago. The third party business has grown by 300%. But what's interesting is that they've changed their relationship with the third party vendor, and their barter rounds are down 66%. For my Golf Now friends in the room, if you're listening, this is what I tell them, right? There's really no need to do the premium marketing program. I'm sorry. If you're on the marketplace and you're providing 1 round a day, that should give you plenty of exposure to drive the rounds of golf that you need to drive to be relevant on that platform. So give them 1 time a day and see how you do. This golf course has grown their green fee revenue, grown their rounds of golf played over the last 4 years, but they're also giving fewer barter times out as a result. I see no questions so far, so that's interesting. I hope everybody's still awake or still attending. I'm going to jump in and show some other stuff that you can do. When you're talking about calculating the performance of your course by day part, you need to start with the capacity. So, there's a pretty simple way that you can build a table of capacity based on sunrise and sunset. This is 4 weeks of data, shows that this golf course had 5,134 rounds of capacity over the last 4 weeks, over a 4-week period. When you get that data file from the golf course, from the tee sheet vendor, you can calculate the rounds played, right? When you know the play date for every round of golf, you can build a table just like this: day of the week, hour of the day, this is where my rounds played. And then when you marry those two together, you come up with utilization, okay? Utilization is nothing more than rounds divided into capacity, okay? And you can see that for this 4-week period, this golf course had a 73% utilization, okay? And again, this is where when you start, I don't think there's anything more important. Yes, you have to have staffing. Yes, you have to practice safe distancing. Yes, you have to bring a clean environment. Yes, you have to bring a product. You have a lot to do to open the doors every day, but the engine that drives your entire golf course operation is the engine of your tee sheet. And to be able to dig into your data by the day of the week and the hour of the day and understand where the pockets of opportunity are is really the job of you as a leader. If you can't do it, you need to find somebody in your organization who can help you do it. You know inherently what you do. You may not have the time or the technical expertise to dig into some of this data, but I know you can find somebody in your organization that has these skills. And so you just start to look at this data. And the next thing you start to look at, now that we look at the utilization by hour, let's look at the revenue by hour, right? And so this is what's interesting about revenue by hour. It really leads right into RevPAR, right? The idea, what is RevPAR? Well, RevPAR is revenue, okay, divided by capacity. Okay, so you take your revenue number, okay, and you divide it by your capacity number, and the result of that information is RevPAR, revenue per available round. It is absolutely not average rate. Okay, this is revenue per available round. This talks about how well you monetize your tee sheet. I've only shown through 1 o'clock, but what you do is if you start to look at this on an annual basis, if you start to look at this on a 12-month basis, or by seasons, you'll start to see there's real pockets of opportunity where the RevPAR can be very low in the 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock hour of the day. And that'll be the topic of another webinar on a different day, is how to build a program around the hours that have the least amount of RevPAR. But the important part in this beginning exercise is just knowing how to calculate it. You take your revenue by hour, which you can get out of your tee sheet data file, and you divide it by the capacity, which you have to come up with some other way. But if you take the capacity calculation, divide it into the RevPAR number, you're going to get your revenue per available round. That's different than your average rate. Look at here, right? That average rate of $87.13 is right $24 higher than the RevPAR. The difference is the utilization, right? If I had 100% utilization, I would have an $87.13 RevPAR, but I don't. This is my average rate. Okay. The way you can calculate barter opportunity cost as home is real simple. Take that average rate per round, or if you want, you can take the RevPAR by day and by day part, either average rate or RevPAR by day or day part, and then find out when the barter rounds hit on your tee sheet, and then multiply it times, in this case, we multiplied it times the average rate, which comes up with a barter opportunity cost of $8,000 for the month. It's important to know this stuff, right? You just need to know, the costs of finding business, the costs of impacting your business, because the tee sheet is the most valuable asset you have. So that's a lot of stuff on how you can know your numbers and how you can do it yourself. Coincidentally, we have some tools that'll help you do that yourself. Some of you on this call are clients already, and you know what I'm talking about. Here's a perfect example of knowing revenue by hour, right? When you know the revenue by hour, that flame shows you the most appropriate time to offer the hot deal for that particular day, right? You want to give the hot deal. If you have the flexibility to provide a hot deal, you want to provide that hot deal in the hour that carries the least amount of revenue historically for you. That's what this screen will help you do. The screen also helps you dig in and look at RevPAR and average rate by hour, or by a series of hours. Here again, we have taken that hard work of the rote action of calculating this information. We've taken that out of the equation by providing that as well. But knowing the different rates by different customer groups, by hours of the days and days of the week is an important determinant on how you chase new business, how you're going to evaluate your cardholder program, which will be the topic of another webinar. So we've got a webinar for finding new opportunities and building programs. That's one webinar that we should do. We should do another webinar that talks about evaluating your cardholder program and your annual pass programs, how best to do that. We've got a lot of experience in the last 6 years of evaluating that data to try and help you craft something that helps you make more money, because that's the bottom line. You need to put a viable product at the market. You need to generate a fair return. You have lots of expenses, lots of CapEx requirements, and lots of responsibility to your families, your employees, your community. So you really have to be working on pricing all the time, and your consumers will appreciate it and understand it. So I digress. Advanced stats. Here's another way, right? We talk about the average rate by hour. Well, here's a real slick tool that'll help you understand for any date range, from any rate category, not only what your average rate is, but really what the utilization was for every hour. You all do under par or you do an under par promotion, or you do a 4 links promotion, or you do a golf moves promotion, or you do a Groupon promotion. What are you always trying to figure out? You're trying to figure out the blackout dates of how to do these rates, right? Of when you make an offer, what you want to black out. Having information at your fingertips that's based on historical revenue, time of the day of the week, is going to give you the control that you can put a program together to make sure that it's having as most positive impact as it can on your green fee performance. Excuse me. Moving on to automatic pricing. Just want to make sure nobody's emailing me here. Got it. So the knowing your rate was really what we've talked about up to this point, right? Knowing your data, knowing your your past performance. This is I spent 20 minutes on this, right? It's an important piece and really the bedrock of doing anything and building anything forward, right? So let's talk about owning your pricing, right? When I talk about owning your pricing and I look at this, what this is a snapshot of the next 9 days by day of the week and by hour at a golf course, right? And it shows the forecasted occupancy. This is the essence of where the industry is going to start to move. You're going to be moving away from the static price adjustment schedules that are kind of set in stone, and you're going to be moving into a more dynamic, always recalibrating how many rounds I have on the books right now, how many rounds do I expect to be booked between now and the day and the hour of play, and how does that compare with both my capacity and how does that compare with my historical data and my historical occupancies for that hour. Knowing these pieces of information are critical because really the number one thing we're trying to help golf courses do is we're trying to help golf courses raise rate when you have the power to raise rate. And it's not as easy as saying I'm going to raise my rate from the 3rd week of the year to the 12th week of the year on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between open and 10 o'clock, right? You can do it that way, but even amongst those couple hundred hours that exist on those 8 weeks and whatnot, the performance of those hours have changed dramatically over the course of time. So you really want something that's always working for you, something that is can be that's watching at the hour level. Think about it this way: knowing, being able to forecast the expected demand for every hour in the future, and being able for that to change and recalibrate that on every change of hour for every hour in the future, right? And so that constant monitoring of where you sit on what we call the booking curve is really about owning your pricing, right? And it's about knowing this and being able to raise the rate. Now, here's an example of what a system might do based on what the forecasted demand looked like, right? Those same hours that existed here were performing at a level that would warrant a price increase, okay? And so what this course is doing is, increasing their rate only in the hours where it actually is warranted. And what we have found through 5 years, 4.5 years of studying data from golf courses is we've really come to the conclusion that golf courses have been underpricing the peak hours by 15 or 20% flat. And we've really seen the courses that have implemented our technology over the last 18 months and have really started to really push the rate in the hours where the demand would warrant, have seen performance in their RevPAR grow by by 10, 15, potentially even 20% over the course of comparing to historical performance. I see we have a question of how do we determine base rate? That's what you're really good at, right? That's what the facility manager, that's what the operator's really good at. Let me think about this for a second. We bring to your fingertips all of your historical rates by the different rate categories, okay? And when you start grouping them into a couple of major groups, public, promotional, cardholder, member, group, okay? Those 4, 5, and you start looking at your public rate. When you look at your public rate for a season, say, January 28th to April 15th, you look at your average rate there, okay? And you can see that, oh, my average rate was, $65 for my public category. And you look at your, you look at your utilization and say, oh, well, I was really, utilized at 65 or 70%. And then you start to also look at what my competitive set rates look like as well. What did their average rate look like? And so you can kind of start to fine tune that to kind of arrive at your base rate. The base rate is only the part of the equation. The other part of the equation is having the forecasting plugged into it so that the base rate can ebb and flow, or the adjustment can ebb and flow based on how the demand is shaping up. Because if you tend to overshoot your base rate and raise it to a level that the marketplace might say, wait a second, these guys were a $65 rate last year, they've just jumped it to 95. What that's going to do is that's going to present itself in demand. If it's too high, it's going to present itself in demand that is falling below the historical pace. And then the system is going to kick in and reduce the rate. Conversely, if you kept it at 65, but the marketplace raised it up to 85, you're going to see increased demand potentially. And so the system then is going to recognize, hey, I'm filling up faster than I have in the past. Therefore, I'm going to start to jack the rate up by some known increments. So you're really good. Golf courses are usually really good at coming up with the strategy to come up with the base rate. The magic is in how it ebbs and flows based on the forecasted demand. I'm talking a lot. What do we got here? 35. Okay. So I talked a lot about their raising rate when you have the power. I also talked about discounting rates when you're behind pace. that's the most important thing, right? Knowing when you're behind and knowing and focusing your discounts only on the hours that are behind pace. So this is kind of the inverse of raising it where you have the demand. This is also lowering it when you're falling behind pace. And if you look at this particular demo golf course, you'll see that over the course of May, this course is experiencing a huge amount of demand because they're in a market that has where not all the golf courses have remained open, but the weather's been good. They're ahead of their historical pace, and there's a lot of demand. And you can see in this case for the next 6 days that this golf course, is 647 rounds ahead of pace. And if we just look at Thursday, which is tomorrow, this course was 61 rounds ahead of pace. But even so, that they're 61 rounds ahead of pace, you can see that there's actually 1 hour when they're behind pace, right? So even though they're ahead, there are little pockets throughout the day and throughout the week where you might find an hour that's behind the historical pace. When we talk about, this is about knowing and owning your pricing. And this is where we start to morph also over into controlling and building your direct to consumer, plan and your direct to consumer marketing plan, right? And so here's an example where this particular golf course in the 9 o'clock hour is behind pace, and based on the setup that the golf course pursues, what they've done is they've put a deal icon on their webpage, and you can see it right down here. So what they've done is they are pushing the best prices to the widget that sits on their website. This is exactly like the hotel industry does with your when they advertise a hotel rate from $89 a night, and you go to their website and you click on the $89 and you put your stay in, and up comes the rate, and it's $89 if you prepay and own it now. It's $99 if you pay it later, and it's $119 if you add breakfast to it, right? And so this is the same thing here, right? This is about making sure that the best prices and the best offers reside on your website. Okay, period, full stop. These are what I would dare say would be your own hot deals. Okay, and what's cool about this is the only times that show up on this site are times that are from hours that are behind pace. Okay, so you don't have to worry about shooting yourself in the foot by treating the morning, the mid-morning, the afternoon all the same. Because one of the things we're trying to help golf courses get out of is looking at the white space on their tee sheet 2, 3, 4 days. And that's the other thing that's happened in these last 8 weeks, right? Is that booking window has shrunk again, right? Looking at the data in Phoenix, right? The rounds that are booked inside of 48 hours are 60%, have grown by 60%, right? So that's such a shortening of the window. So now, right, courses are looking at their tee sheet 2, 3 days in advance and like, wow, I can't believe I've only got 40 rounds on the books. Well, we know full well that you're going to end up with 116 or 122 or 212, whatever the number is. But you really have to resist the wholesale creating a special offer and promoting it to your website or to your customer database, right? This is about using the technology and the tools available to smartly curate the times that are from hours that are behind and putting them on your website at a price and in a prepaid mode that that you can't find anywhere else, and that also coincide with the offer that you're presenting. And guess what? If hours are on pace, or there are no tee times available on the widget. If times from that hour start to fill up and you get back on pace, the discount decreases and ultimately goes away. So there's a lot of power in driving traffic to your website, keeping this information and showing tee times on your website that and prices that are available nowhere else. All right, hot deal on your website. Promoting it to your database. That's the other thing. Courses, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 member databases, right? And, I know you're probably hitting these databases weekly, every other week, but when you start to drive them back to your website, talk about the widget or talk about this, the text club promotion, knowing and having confidence and the comfort in knowing that the best deals are on your website, but they're not hurting you. They're coming from hours that are behind pace, right? And that they're prepaid and they're non-cancelable. So again, it's helping you get the word out to your own customer database, to drive them back to your website, to get them to engage with you for prices that can't be found anyplace else, right? That's an important piece, I think. So let me talk a little bit now about people who walk up to the counter and register for play. I talked about it earlier. Whether it's a third party from, Golf Now or Golf Moose or Four Links or wherever, from Golf Pack International, et cetera, et cetera. You have the distinct advantage of every single one of the. They may not give you the email addresses, and I get it, and that's okay. But guess what? Every single one of those golfers walks directly up to your counter, okay, at some point, okay, and says, now I have to adjust this a little bit in the post-COVID days because cashless payments, prepayments, and skipping the golf shop. That's another story. That's another webinar, frankly. But to the extent that you interact with people that book your golf course that you don't know who they are, putting a QR code on the counter, letting them scan it with their phone and register right into the text club is the easiest way in the world. Right? It is, you're not asking them for an email address. They're not sharing something. It's not taking any longer. You got it on next to the counter. You got it on the first tee. You got it on the cart. You got it on the scorecard. You can have it anywhere, right? Scan this QR code, join the text club, and fill in the blank on whatever promotion you want to do. 97% of text messages are read within the first 3 minutes that they're sent. We're all getting more and more messaging this way, and the golf industry is catching up. And we offer one of several SMS platforms that you can use. Don't have to use ours, but if you're doing this, you are moving in the right direction. The largest network in the world, Facebook and Instagram. More and more of our customer base is there, right? This COVID thing has also shown that even your most technically challenged golfer, when forced with no other option than booking and paying online so that they can go play golf, they figured out a way to do it. Not going to change. Okay. So the largest marketplace in the world isn't Golf Now, right? It's Facebook and Instagram. Your golfers are there. Okay. And it's about reaching out to them in that way and getting them to engage with you. And a simple way to do it, it's on their phone. Get them to sign up for the text club, right? They sign up for the text club, and boom, they opt immediately in. So it's a double opt-in. They can opt out at any time, and they'll get the best deals to their phone whenever those deals are available on your website. So this is about knowing your numbers. This is about owning your pricing. And this is about building your online tools, okay, and and taking control of that direct to consumer relationship. You are making sure that everybody that comes through your golf shop gets an opportunity to sign up with you. Okay? Like if anybody's moaning and groaning about anything, about a third party, and you're not doing this, then you really don't have any right to complain, because you are leaving the opportunity completely uncultivated. These people walk through your shop every day. You got to get them to come directly to you. There are tools available that make it easy to get these people to join you, and make it easy to communicate with these people, and make it easy to reward them for booking directly with you. So it's getting your best prices on your website. It's getting customers to come directly to you, building your customer database, and it's promoting regularly to your customer database the opportunities that you have for them to engage with you. Right? Tea times, right? 70%, 80%. And now post-COVID, potentially with less food and beverage and less weddings and other groups and entertainment. I mean, green fee revenue is really carrying the water for all your golf courses, right? And so therefore you've got to be really humping the tee sheet, doing more with less, frankly, too. And, just a simple way to watch the members of your text club grow and grow and grow. This is something that grows, passively on your widget, right? Back on your website. When you look at it, you've got this, plop your phone number here and get the best deals delivered right to your phone. And so as that continues to unfold, that's what shows up.